Welcome back to Radio XIII, The Hidden Nightmares, where we dive into the depths of fear. In this second episode, we reveal a disturbing truth. What if the ghostly tales that haunt us are not just figments of our imagination, but gateways to something far more sinister? Are you ready to confront the darkness lurking beneath these horror stories? Today, we will explore chilling tales whispered in the dark and delve into real-life encounters that will make you question everything you thought you knew. Just when you think you've escaped the horrors of the night, we will unveil shocking mysteries hidden within these stories. Mysteries that could forever change the way you perceive horror tale. And trust me, you won't want to miss the spine-chilling twist of this episode, where we attempt to summon the very nightmares we've uncovered. Will we awaken something better left undisturbed? Buckle up. Things are about to get hauntingly real. Ladies and gentlemen, to start today's broadcast, we bring you Olivia's story. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the story.
I never thought that a weekend trip with my friends would lead to such a horrifying experience. It had started as a fun escape from our hectic lives, a chance for adventure and bonding. We loaded up the car with snacks, drinks, and an endless playlist of our favorite songs. As we drove through remote roads, surrounded by dense woods and darkening skies, we felt the thrill of excitement. The headlights only illuminated a small patch of the road ahead, casting eerie shadows that danced alongside us. As night fell, we decided to stop at an old, decrepit rest stop by the side of the road. The flickering neon sign above cracked and faded, barely spelling out "Rest Stop." It seemed like a relic from a forgotten era, abandoned and left to rot. Stepping out of the car, an unsettling feeling washed over me. The air was thick and heavy, a kind of silence that made your skin crawl. The rotting signs and broken wooden benches created a gloomy ambiance, and the smell of dampness lingered in the air. "Is anyone here?" I called out, my voice echoing into the void, but all I received was eerie silence in response. "Come on, guys, let's explore." Kevin, the most adventurous among us, urged with an infectious enthusiasm. Despite my unease, I followed him, unwilling to be the party pooper. As we wandered further, the atmosphere grew tense. Each footstep echoed on the cold ground, making my heart race faster than I thought possible. There was something off about this place, something that gnawed at the back of my mind. The graffiti-covered walls were filled with dark messages and bizarre symbols that sent chills down my spine. Though no one spoke it aloud, we all sensed a mysterious presence lurking in the shadows. With the sun fully down, dread began creeping in. We decided to head back to the car, but just then Kevin suddenly exclaimed, "Look over there!" He pointed toward the main entrance of the abandoned building. A vague silhouette stood against the darkness, nearly blending in with the surrounding. My stomach dropped, and I felt a chill run down my spine. "That's just a prank." Jake, the joker of the group, tried to dismiss it with humor, though his voice wavered. We moved closer, curiosity overtaking our fear. But as we reached the spot, the figure vanished without a trace. Cold air wrapped around us, intensifying the feeling of dread hanging thick in the atmosphere. "I really think we should leave," I said, glancing nervously around. But despite my protests, the others wanted to investigate further. Driven by a mix of curiosity and bravado, reluctantly, I fell in step behind them, my heart pounding like a drum in my chest. Inside, the musty odor of mold and decay hit us like a wall, making me gag. Our flashlights flickered, casting erratic beams across the walls, which seemed to close in around us. The overall gloominess held a weight that pressed against our chests. Every creak of the old structure made me jump. As we explored, I couldn't shake the feeling that we weren't alone. Felt like unseen eyes watched us from the dark corners. I don't like this place, I admitted, my voice barely rising above a whisper, but my friends were too caught up in their exploration to heed my warning. Suddenly, a high-pitched giggle echoed down the hallway, slicing through the suffocating silence. We turned sharply, our eyes wide with fear. That wasn't just a laugh. It was deep and chilling, as if someone was playing with our lives. I felt a cold wave wash over me, making my teeth chatter involuntarily. "I want to go home," I shouted, panic creeping into my voice. But at that moment, the main door slammed shut with a deafening bang, bending us into a frenzy. My breath came in ragged gasps, and despair clawed at my mind. We rushed to the door, but it wouldn't budge. Felt as if an invisible force was holding it shut. In the middle of our chaos, Lisa, who had been quiet thus far, began to scream. "There's someone there!" She pointed toward the end of the dimly lit hallway. The beam from her phone illuminated a figure standing there, more defined this time. It was a woman, disheveled and tattered, her long hair obscuring her face, with eyes as dark as the abyss. She stood motionless, her lips moving silently as if trying to utter a plea or warning that we couldn't hear. Everything unraveled into chaos. We ran back to the door, pounding against it desperately, but it remained obstinately shut. The ghostly laughter rang out once more, filling the air with an overwhelming sense of dread. My heart raced as I recalled frightening tales of people who wandered into places like this, ensnared forever in the grips of malevolent spirits. Sweat trickled down my back, and a part of me recognized the horrific truth. We could very well be the next victim. Just when it seemed hopeless, with adrenaline pumping through my veins, I pushed against the door with all my strength. With a loud creak, it swung open, and we burst outside like frightened animals. The atmosphere outside felt almost peaceful, but nothing could erase the terror still gripping our hearts. We jumped into the car, the engine roaring to life, and sped away at breakneck speed. As we drove, I glanced back in the rearview mirror. My blood ran cold as I saw the silhouette of that woman standing by the window, watching us with those hollow black eyes. "Did you see that?" I gasped, my voice trembling. "Yeah, I did," Kevin exclaimed, his face pale. "What the hell was that?" From that day on, we were no longer the same friends we used to be. The fear and haunting memories lingered, creating a rift between us. Every night, I lay awake, terrified of what might come for us. We always felt as if something was watching us, following us home. In our dreams, the image of that ghostly woman remained, her silent whispers echoing in our minds, stealing away our peace. Weeks passed, but the nightmares didn't relent. Each of us carried a piece of that night within us, a shared trauma that isolated us from one another. We drifted apart, unable to confront what we had experienced together. Yet the question loomed over us. What had happened at that rest stop? It wasn't until months later that we gathered again, compelled by the need for answers. We returned to the site, our hearts racing as we approached the dilapidated building. The neon sign flickered ominously, and the air felt charged with anticipation. As we stepped inside, the familiar stench of decay enveloped us. We determined to uncover the truth of the woman and the rest stop. Armed with flashlights and courage, we navigated deeper into the darkness. The atmosphere was even heavier than before, and I could feel the weight of our collective fear pressing down. Then, as if summoned by our presence, we heard the giggling again. This time, it was louder, more sinister. We froze, realizing we weren't alone, and perhaps we'd never been alone. The woman appeared once more, her face now partially visible under the light of our flashlight. She looked desperate, lost. In that harrowing moment, the truth began to unravel. We learned that she had been trapped there, a victim of the very spirits that haunted the rest stop. Her story intertwined with ours, binding us to her fate. And as her story unfolded, we understood that we had unwittingly become part of a cycle, one that needed to be broken. Together, we vowed to help her find peace, to confront whatever darkness had kept her bound for so long. As we gathered in a circle, holding hands, the air around us crackled with energy. We felt her presence, the weight of her sorrow lifting slowly but surely. In that moment of unity, we whispered words of comfort, offering our strength and compassion. And just as the tension peaked, a blinding light engulfed us, and we felt a rush of wind sweep through the building. When the light faded, the oppressive weight lifted, leaving us alone in a serene silence. We emerged from the rest stop changed, no longer haunted by the specter of fear. We found closure not just for ourselves, but for her as well. The bond we had formed through fear had transformed into something stronger. Friendship rooted in resilience. Though we left the rest stop behind, its legacy stayed with us. We learned that facing our fears together could release us from their grip. And as we drove away one last time, I glanced back at the building, now just a shadow in the fading light. The darkness may have once consumed us, but in the end, it had also set us free.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing your story, Olivia. That was quite a chilling and spooky tale, wasn't it, everyone? Now to keep the excitement going, let's dive into our second story of the day. Brace yourselves for another spine-tingling experience, this time from Benjamin. Ladies and gentlemen, please lend your ears as we embark on this eerie journey.
2 years ago, I made a life-changing decision. I bought an old yet charming house in Frankenmuth, Michigan. The moment I stepped inside, I was captivated by its classic architecture and unique character, nestled amidst the tranquil countryside. According to the real estate agent, the house had once been the residence of a wealthy family. However, after a series of tragic events, it had fallen into disrepair and was being sold for an extremely low price. Excited about my new home, I envisioned cozy evenings by the fireplace, gatherings with friends. But as I began to settle in, strange feelings started creeping into my mind. From the very first night, the bizarre atmosphere seemed to envelop every corner of the house. Shadows danced on the walls, and faint whispers echoed softly down the hallways. I tried to shake off these sensations, telling myself they were just figments of my imagination, that I just needed time to adjust to my new surroundings. However, one fateful night changed everything. On a full moon night, silver light streamed through the gaps in the curtains, casting eerie patterns on the wooden floor. I was sound asleep when I suddenly woke up from a terrifying nightmare, my heart racing. As I opened my eyes, I noticed something was off. The room felt darker than usual. The darkness seemed to thicken, almost alive, wrapping around me like a suffocating blanket. I tried to get up, but my legs felt frozen, unable to move. A chilling sensation began to spread throughout my body. Suddenly, I heard a soft whisper, as if someone were calling my name from deep within the shadows. The whisper grew louder, more insistent, sending waves of fear racing down my spine. My gaze unintentionally drifted to the large mirror hanging on the wall. What I saw next was unimaginable. Instead of my own reflection, there was a dark figure with glowing red eyes staring back at me. It bore a menacing smile that sent shivers down my spine. I knew instantly that I was not alone. Overwhelmed by fear, I screamed and rushed toward the door, only to discover it was tightly locked. Panic surged within me as the darkness began to move, emerging from the mirror and advancing toward me. Frozen in terror, I squeezed my eyes shut, desperately wishing for it to disappear. When I finally dared to open my eyes again, I found myself lying in bed, drenched in cold sweat. My heart raced as I looked around. Everything seemed normal, but I knew this was no ordinary night. The darkness in this house held horrifying secrets waiting to be uncovered. In the following days, a constant sense of dread accompanied me whenever I was alone. Strange sounds echoed in the hallways, shadows darted across my vision, and I felt invisible eyes watching me. The weight of fear pressed heavily upon me, and each night became a battle against the encroaching apparition. As I struggled to cope, my daily life began to crack. Friends noticed my anxiety, and invitations to social gatherings dwindled. I became a recluse, trapped in a house that should have been a sanctuary. Each morning, I stared into the mirror, searching for my own image, but what I saw was merely a haunted version of myself. One afternoon, while cleaning out the attic, I stumbled upon an old, dust-covered leather diary. Curious, I gently opened it and began to read. Pages were filled with scrawled handwriting and frantic drawings. They revealed a frightening history of the house and its former occupant. Thomas, previous resident, had performed dark rituals, attempting to summon a supernatural entity. His intentions had spiraled out of control, leaving the entity trapped in the house, eternally tormenting anyone who dared to enter. As I read Thomas's harrowing accounts, I felt an overwhelming sense of malevolence engulfing me, as if an invisible force was monitoring my every move. Determined to uncover the truth, I researched Thomas and the dark practices he had pursued. The deeper I delved into the shadowy past, the more lost and terrified I felt. Sleep deprivation only heightened my anxiety. I often heard whispers at night, and the shadows seemed bolder, lingering longer within my sight. Then one night, everything reached a breaking point. I was jolted awake by a gentle tug on my shoulder. Confused, I opened my eyes and froze. In the dim light, a tall, dark figure stood by my bed, its fiery red gaze fixated on me. It seemed to relish my fear. I screamed and tried to rise, but my body felt shackled under an unbearable weight. The next morning, the dark figure was gone, but the fear remained, haunting me at every moment. I knew I couldn't continue living in that house. It had become a prison. Desperately seeking a way out, I turned to the internet for help. After hours of searching, I discovered a renowned medium in the area known for cleansing haunted spaces. With a mix of anticipation and dread, I contacted him and shared my terrifying story. He listened intently, nodding in understanding. After assessing the house, he confirmed my worst fears. The house was indeed haunted by a dark spirit, and a cleansing ritual was necessary. The day of the ritual arrived, and I felt a tumultuous blend of hope and fear. The air in the house grew heavy and tense. Strange sounds erupted around me, resembling the howls of an angered entity. As the medium began reciting incantations, the atmosphere trembled, and the house shook violently. The dark figure appeared, screaming and fighting against the light. What followed felt like an eternity. Fierce battle between good and evil, between light and darkness. The medium's voice rang out amidst the chaos, steady and authoritative, pushing back the evil that sought to maintain control over the house. Finally, after a struggle that seemed endless, the medium succeeded in expelling the dark spirit from my home. An abrupt silence enveloped the room, bringing with it a strange sense of tranquility. A wave of relief washed over me, gratitude swelling in my heart as the burden of fear was lifted. For the first time since moving in, I felt truly free. Even though the darkness had been banished, the memories lingered. The house still bore scars from its dark past, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the darkness had left an indelible mark on my soul. I realized I needed to completely let go of this chapter in my life. With a heavy heart, I made the difficult decision to sell the house. It once held dreams of a peaceful, warm place to belong, but ultimately it had become an endless nightmare. When the for sale sign went up in the yard, I felt a bittersweet mixture of closure and relief. I moved to a new town, far away from the memories of that haunted house. Although I carried the weight of past experiences with me, I also embraced the newfound strength I had discovered. I learned that confronting fears, no matter how dark, could lead to liberation. With that knowledge, I embarked on a journey towards a brighter future, ready to create new memories, this time unshackled by the darkness of the past. In the months that followed, I worked tirelessly to rebuild my life. I engaged in various activities, made new friends, and explored hobbies I had never considered before. Long afternoons immersed in art, mornings jogging by the lake, and joyful evenings spent with new companions gradually helped me forget the haunting past. Occasionally, amid those peaceful moments, memories of the house in Frankenmuth would resurface, recalled the chill, the whispers, and the lurking shadows. But instead of fear, I viewed them as valuable lessons. I realized that not just the house, but I too had endured and overcome challenges. One day, while sitting on the beach, watching the sunset paint the water in vibrant shades of orange and gold, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. I understood that the past shaped me, but it did not dictate my future. I chose to live my life fully, free from the burdens of what had come before. Ultimately, I found peace within my soul. I began rewriting my story, not just about fears, but about strength, resilience, and hope. I shared my story with others, helping them realize that no matter how dark the past may be, light can always find its way back. And above all, I knew I had become a better version of myself. A strong, resilient person ready ready to face any challenge ahead. In the end, I transformed pain into power and moved forward with the belief that everything could change, as long as I had the courage to confront it and never give up.
Thank you so much for that amazing story, Benjamin. It was truly haunting and definitely gives us plenty to think about. Now, let's take a quick break before we move on to the next segment, Global Horror Stories. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming up next. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. As we continue our program, we invite you to immerse yourselves in the captivating tale of the Whispering Shadows. Get ready to be enthralled. In a small town nestled between thick, dark forests, there was a chilling urban legend that sent shivers down the spines of its residents. They spoke of a figure known as the Whisperer, ghostly presence that would appear to those who wandered too far into the woods at night. It was said that the whisperer would lure its victims with soft, melodic whispers, promising secrets and untold treasures. But those who followed the voice would never return. On a crisp autumn evening, the leaves crunched underfoot as three friends gathered at their favorite hangout spot, an old wooden bench by the park. Mark, Sarah, and Jake were excited, their breath visible in the chilly air. The sun was beginning to set, casting an orange glow over the town. "Are you guys really going to believe that old story?" Mark scoffed, leaning back with a confident grin. His friends exchanged glances, but Sarah, always the cautious one, replied, "I don't know, Mark. It's creepy. What if there's some truth to it?" Jake chuckled, brushing off her concern. "Come on, it's just a tale to scare kids. I'm not scared of some ghost." Bravado in his voice was evident, but Sarah could see a flicker of doubt in his eyes. Conversation shifted as the sun dipped lower and the shadows grew longer. Mark, eager to prove his point, proposed an idea. "Let's go into the woods tonight. We'll find out for ourselves if the whisperer is real. I'll even record it on my phone." Sarah hesitated, glancing at the darkening sky. "I don't think that's a good idea. What if something happened?" But the excitement in Mark's eyes was infectious, and Jake chimed in. "It'll be fun. Just a little adventure." The trio made their way to the edge of the forest, the trees looming ominously against the twilight sky. As they stepped into the woods, the familiar sounds of the town faded away, placed by the rustling of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. The air grew colder, and an unsettling silence enveloped them. As they ventured deeper, the light from their flashlights danced across the trees, casting eerie shadows that seemed to shift and sway. Laughter echoed among the branches, but it was tinged with nervousness. "See? Nothing to be afraid of," Mark said, though his voice lacked its usual confidence. Suddenly, a faint whisper floated through the air, soft and inviting. "Come closer. I have something to show you." The words were barely audible, yet they sent a chill down their spines. Mark's eyes widened, excitement mingling with fear. "Did you hear that?" he asked, turning to his friends. Sarah and Jake exchanged nervous glances, their earlier bravado fading. "Probably just the wind," Jake said, though his voice trembled slightly. As Mark called out into the open space of the clearing, the atmosphere grew heavy, and the shadows around them seemed to shift. The whispers wrapped around him like a warm embrace, promising secrets and treasures hidden deep within the forest. Sarah and Jake exchanged worried glances, their earlier confidence slowly fading. "Mark, we should turn back," Sarah advised, her voice barely audible. But Mark was captivated, moving closer to the ancient tree. Its rough bark weathered by time, the whispers grew louder, enveloping him, beckoning him closer. "Could this be real?" Mark replied, his eyes shining with excitement and fear. "What if we discover something amazing?" Jake, feeling the weight of the situation, tried to pull Mark back. "This isn't a joke, man. We don't know what we're facing." But Mark brushed Jake's hand away, entranced by the voice that seemed to promise everything he had ever wanted. As they stood in the clearing, a figure began to emerge from the darkness. It was shrouded in shadow, its features obscured, but its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light. "You have come to find me," whispered, each word passing like a cold breeze. "I can grant you what you desire most." Mark's heart raced as he gazed into the glowing eyes of the whisperer. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice trembling with excitement. The figure moved closer, the shadows swirling around it like a living cloak. "I can give you power, knowledge, anything you seek," the whisperer said, its voice smooth as silk yet chilling to the bone. "You must pay a price." A shiver ran through Sarah. "What's the price?" she asked, her voice quivering. The whisperer smiled, revealing sharp teeth glinting in the moonlight. "Very simple. Just give me what you hold most dear," it replied, its gaze fixed intently on Mark, who stood mesmerized by the promise. Jake stepped forward, trying to break the spell. "Mark, don't. This isn't right." But Mark was lost in thought, weighing the possibilities. "What if I give you my fears?" he suggested, trying to bargain. The whisperer chuckled, a sound echoing through the clearing, sending chills down their spines. "Fears are easy to take. What about your friends? Are you willing to sacrifice them for your desires?" Panic surged within Sarah and Jake as they realized the weight of the whisperer's words. "Mark, Don't do this, Sarah cried out, her voice filled with desperation. We can't trust it. Mark felt torn, caught between the alluring promise of power and the loyalty he felt for his friends. I can't abandon you, he whispered, looking back at them with a mix of determination and fear. But I want to be free from my fears. The whisperer smiled, its expression darkening, eyes sparkling like shards of ice. Very well. Speak your wish, and I will take away your fear. Mark took a deep breath, his heart pounding in his chest. I wish to be free from my fears, he declared, his voice steady despite the turmoil within him. The moment those words escaped his lips, darkness enveloped him, pulling him in. Sarah and Jake screamed, reaching out for their friend, but it was too late. Mark vanished, leaving only a whisper echoing in the air. But Mark was already moving forward, drawn by the sound. Let's follow it, he urged, his curiosity overpowering his caution. Against their better judgment, Sarah and Jake reluctantly followed, the whisper growing louder and more alluring. As they navigated through the dense trees, the whispering led them to a clearing, bathed in the pale light of the moon. In the center stood an ancient tree, its gnarled branches twisting like skeletal fingers, reaching out for the sky. The atmosphere shifted, thickening with an unexplainable tension. The whispering intensified, swirling around them like a soft breeze. You've come to find me. I've waited so long. The voice was melodic, yet there was an underlying chill that sent a shiver down their spines. Mark stepped forward, captivated by the voice. What do you want? Called out, his voice trembling with a mix of fear and intrigue. Little did they know they were crossing a threshold from which there would be no return. Clearing fell silent, the echoes of Mark's disappearance lingering in the air like a forgotten melody. Sarah and Jake stood frozen, shock washing over them as they processed what had just happened. The whisperer, now looming in the shadows, turned its attention to them, a satisfied smile playing on its lips. What have you done? Sarah gasped, her voice trembling. You took him. You promised him power. The whisperer's eyes glinted with amusement. Power comes at a cost, dear child. Mark chose his desires over his friends. What will you choose? Jake clenched his fists, anger boiling within him. You won't take us too. We won't give you anything, he shouted defiantly. The whisperer chuckled softly, the sound echoing like a haunting lullaby. Bravery is commendable, but it won't save you. Your fears are waiting, lurking just beneath the surface. What if I could take them away as well? Sarah shook her head, tears brimming in her eyes. We won't fall for your tricks. Mark is gone because of you. Ah, but he is free now, the whisperer replied, its voice smooth and enticing. Free from the burdens that weighed him down. You could join him. Just make a wish. Jake stepped forward, his heart racing. What if we wish for Mark to come back? The whisperer's smile widened, revealing those sharp teeth once more. Wishes are not so simple. What if he returns, but changed? What if he no longer remembers you? Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. We can't leave him like this. We have to try. The whisperer's laughter echoed through the clearing, a sound that sent shivers through their souls. Then make your wish. But know this, every decision has consequences. Jake and Sarah exchanged a determined glance. We wish for Mark to come back, they declared in unison. The air around them shimmered, and for a moment they felt a glimmer of hope. But as the darkness swirled, they realized something was wrong. A figure emerged, but it was not the Mark they remembered. His eyes were hollow, and a sinister smile stretched across his face. Mark? Sarah whispered, fear gripping her heart. Is that you? The figure laughed, but it was a sound devoid of warmth. I am what you wished for, but I am no longer bound by your fears. I have become something greater. Jake stepped back, dread filling him. What have you become? I have embraced the darkness, Mark replied, his voice echoing with a chilling resonance. Now I am free. Sarah's heart sank as she realized the truth. The whisperer had twisted their wish, turning their friend into a vessel for its dark power. This isn't what we wanted, they cried, desperation in their voice. The whisperer smiled, satisfaction radiating from its presence. You wished for your friend, and now he is mine. Power comes with a price, and you have paid it. Mark turned to them, his expression unreadable. You should have joined me. Together, we could have ruled the darkness. No, Jake shouted, stepping protectively in front of Sarah. We won't let you take anyone else. The whisperer's laughter filled the air once more, a chilling sound that echoed through the trees. You have made your choices. Now, face the consequence. With that, the shadows around them deepened, and the air crackled with energy. Sarah and Jake felt the weight of their fear pressing down on them, threatening to consume them. They had entered a realm of darkness, and now they had to fight to escape. Stick together, Jake urged, grabbing Sarah's hand. We can't let it win. As they ran through the clearing, the darkness chased them, whispering their deepest fears and regrets. They could feel Mark's presence behind them, a haunting reminder of what they had lost. Mark, please, Sarah shouted, desperation fueling her voice. Come back to us. You don't have to do this. But the figure only laughed, the sound echoing in their minds. You cannot save me. I am beyond saving now. With every step, the shadows closed in, threatening to swallow them whole. But Sarah and Jake pushed forward, fueled by their determination to escape the grasp of the Whisperer and the darkness it had unleashed. In that moment, they realized that true power lay not in the absence of fear, but in the strength of their friendship. They would fight for each other, no matter the cost. As they reached the edge of the clearing, a blinding light erupted, illuminating the darkness. With a final push, they broke free, leaving the shadows behind. But as they turned back, they knew the battle was far from over. Mark was lost to them, and the Whisperer still lingered in the depths of the forest, waiting for its next victim. Together, they vowed to return and save their friend, no matter what it took. They would face the darkness, armed with the light of their friendship, ready to confront the Whisperer once again. Days turned into nights as Sarah and Jake prepared for the return to the forest. The weight of their loss hung heavily on their hearts, but they were determined to rescue Mark from the clutches of the Whisperer. They gathered supplies, studied maps, and sought advice from those who had ventured into the woods before. Each encounter only fueled their resolve, as they learned of the dangers that lay ahead. On the day of their departure, the sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows that danced across the ground. Sarah and Jake took a deep breath as they approached the edge of the forest, the familiar trees looming ominously before them. Memories of laughter and friendship flooded back, mixing with the fear of what awaited them. Are you ready? Jake asked, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. Sarah nodded, her determination shining through. We have to be. We can't leave Mark behind. As they stepped into the forest, the atmosphere shifted. The air grew colder, and the whispers began to swirl around them once more, echoing their fears and doubts. But this time, they stood together, holding on to the hope that they could bring Mark back. Stay close, Jake urged, gripping Sarah's hand tightly. We'll find him. The deeper they ventured, the more the darkness seemed to close in around them. Shadows flickered at the edges of their vision, and the whispers grew louder, taunting them with memories of their fears. Sarah and Jake pressed on, their bond growing stronger with every step. After hours of navigating through the dense underbrush, they arrived at the clearing where Mark had vanished. The air felt charged, and the atmosphere was thick with tension. In the center stood the ancient tree, its gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. Mark, Sarah called out, her voice echoing in the silence. We're here. We've come to bring you back. The wind picked up, swirling around them as the Whisperer's voice emerged from the shadows. You return, but why? Do you not see the futility of your quest? Let him go, Jake shouted, his voice filled with defiance. You've taken enough from us. The Whisperer materialized, a dark figure with eyes that glowed like embers. He is mine now. You cannot save him from what he has become. Mark, Sarah cried, desperation creeping into her voice. Please, fight it. We know you're still in there. From the shadows, Mark stepped forward, his expression a haunting mix of familiarity and something darker. You shouldn't have come back, he said, his voice echoing with an unsettling resonance. I am free now. No, you're not, Sarah pleaded, tears streaming down her cheeks. You're trapped in this darkness. We can help you. The Whisperer laughed, a chilling sound that sent shivers down their spines. He has embraced his true self. Why would he want to return to the shackles of fear? Because we love him. Jake shouted, stepping closer. Mark, remember who you are. Remember us. For a moment, a flicker of recognition crossed Mark's face. The shadows around him wavered, and the glow His eyes dimmed slightly. I can't. Fight it, Mark, Sarah urged, her voice strong and unwavering. We're here for you. You're not alone. As the bond of their friendship reached out to him, the darkness around Mark began to tremble. The Whisperer's expression shifted from amusement to annoyance. No, you will not take him from me. With a surge of determination, Jake and Sarah stepped forward, holding hands tightly. Together, we can break this, they declared in unison. The energy in the clearing shifted as they focused on their bond, channeling their love and friendship into a powerful force. Shadows recoiled, and the whispers turned into cries of anguish. Mark, you have the strength to choose, Sarah shouted, her heart pounding in her chest. Choose us. In that moment, Mark's expression changed. The hollow look in his eyes began to fade, replaced by a flicker of hope. I choose. The Whisperer roared in fury, like the shadows swirling violently around them. You will regret this. You cannot escape your fate. But the light of their friendship pierced through the darkness, illuminating the clearing. Mark took a step forward, breaking free from the grasp of the Whisperer. I choose my friends. As his words echoed through the air, a blinding light erupted, engulfing them all. The darkness shrieked in rage, but it was no match for the power of their bond. The shadows dissipated, and the Whisperer's form began to crumble, its hold on Mark shattering. With a final burst of energy, the light enveloped Mark, and in an instant, he was standing before them, his eyes clear and filled with warmth. Sarah, Jake, he exclaimed, his voice full of relief. Mark, they cried, rushing forward to embrace him. The warmth of their friendship surrounded them, banishing the darkness that had threatened to consume them. As they stood together in the clearing, the remnants of the Whisperer faded into the night, leaving behind only echoes of its whispers. They had faced the darkness and emerged victorious, stronger than ever. But they knew their journey wasn't over. The forest still held secrets, and they would need to be vigilant to protect their bond. Together, they would navigate the challenges ahead, united by the strength of their friendship and the promise of hope. With newfound determination, they turned to leave the clearing, hand in hand, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Together, as they emerged from the clearing, the forest felt different. The shadows that once loomed threateningly now seemed less oppressive, as if the very trees were breathing a sigh of relief. Mark, Sarah, and Jake walked side by side, the bond between them stronger than ever. I can't believe we found you, Sarah said, glancing at Mark, her eyes still glistening with tears of joy. I was so scared we'd lost you forever. Mark smiled, a warmth returning to his gaze. I almost lost myself, but your voices pulled me back. I can't thank you enough. Jake nodded, his expression serious. We need to be cautious. The Whisperer might be gone, but the forest still holds many secrets. As they navigated through the dense trees, they began to share their experiences. Mark recounted the seductive whispers that had promised him freedom from his fears, and how he had almost succumbed to the darkness. Sarah and Jake listened intently, realizing how close they had come to losing their friend. Every moment I spent in that shadow felt real, Mark confessed, but it was a lie. I was never truly free. I was just a pawn. We're just glad you're back with us, Jake said, his voice filled with relief. But we need to make sure we're prepared for anything that might come our way. As they continued deeper into the forest, they stumbled upon a small stream, its waters sparkling in the sunlight that filtered through the leaves. They paused to catch their breath and gather their thoughts. Let's take a moment, Sarah suggested, kneeling by the water's edge. We need to regroup and plan our next steps. As they sat together, the sound of the flowing water brought a sense of calm. Mark dipped his hands into the stream, letting the cool water wash over him. I feel like I've been given a second chance, he said softly. I won't take it for granted again. None of us will, Sarah replied, her voice steady. We've faced the darkness and come out stronger. We need to remember that. Jake looked thoughtful. What if we find a way to use our experiences to help others? There could be more people affected by the Whisperer, or similar forces. Mark's eyes lit up at the idea. That's a great plan. We could warn others about the dangers of the forest and share what we've learned. Together, we can create a network of support, Sarah added, her enthusiasm growing. We can help those who might be tempted by the darkness. As they brainstormed ideas, the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the forest. They felt a renewed sense of purpose, fueled by their friendship and the desire to protect others from the fate they had narrowly escaped. "Let's head back to town and start spreading the word," Jake suggested, standing up and brushing off his clothes. "We can gather more people to help us." Mark and Sarah nodded in agreement, their spirits lifted by the prospect of making a difference. Together, they trekked back through the forest, their hearts lighter and their resolve stronger. As they reached the edge of the woods, they turned to take one last look at the trees that had once felt so foreboding. Now they stood as a testament to their journey, a journey of fear, loss, and ultimately triumph. "We'll be back," Mark vowed, determination shining in his eyes. "And next time, we'll be ready." With that, they stepped into the daylight, leaving the shadows behind but carrying the lessons they had learned. They were no longer just friends. They were allies in a shared mission, united by their experiences and the unbreakable bond that had brought them back together. As they walked toward their town, they knew the road ahead would not be easy, but with each other by their side, they felt ready to face whatever challenges awaited them. Armed with the light of their friendship and the strength of their resolve, together, they would shine brightly against the darkness, guiding others toward hope and safety. The journey back to town felt different this time. The air was filled with a sense of purpose, a shared mission that ignited their spirits. As they walked, Mark, Sarah, and Jake discussed how they would spread the word about the dangers lurking in the forest and the importance of friendship in overcoming darkness. Once they reached the town, they immediately set to work. They organized a meeting at the local community center, inviting friends, family, and anyone willing to listen. The news of their adventure spread quickly, fueled by curiosity and concern. On the night of the meeting, the community center buzzed with energy. People gathered in small groups, sharing stories and expressing their fears about the forest. Mark, Sarah, and Jake stood at the front, ready to share their experiences. "Thank you all for coming," Mark began, his voice steady despite the butterflies in his stomach. "We want to talk to you about something important, something that nearly cost us our lives." The room fell silent, attention focused on the trio. Sarah took a deep breath and continued, "We encountered a dark force in the forest, one that preys on fears and desires. It almost took Mark from us, but we fought back together." Jake stepped forward, his expression serious. "We want to warn everyone about the dangers that lie within those woods. It's not just a place for adventure. It can become a trap if you're not careful." As they shared their story, the audience listened intently, some nodding in understanding, others visibly shaken. They spoke about the importance of recognizing one's fears and the power of friendship in overcoming them. "We've learned that we're stronger together," Bart concluded, his heart swelling with emotion. "And we want to create a support network for anyone who feels lost or afraid. Together, we can face the darkness." After the presentation, the room erupted in applause. People approached them, expressing gratitude for their bravery and sharing their own experiences. The trio felt a wave of relief wash over them. Their message had resonated. Over the next few weeks, they worked tirelessly to establish a community group dedicated to supporting those who had faced their fears. They organized workshops, inviting speakers to share their stories and strategies for overcoming adversity. They created safe spaces for people to talk about their experiences, fostering a sense of belonging and understanding. As the group grew, so did their impact. They organized hikes in the forest, not to shy away from it, but to reclaim it as a place of healing and connection. They taught others how to navigate their fears and recognize the whispers of doubt that could lead them astray. One sunny afternoon, they led a hike through the forest, this time filled with laughter and camaraderie. The trees, once ominous, now felt like old friends, welcoming them back. As they reached the clearing where they had faced the whisperer, they paused. "Look how far we've come," Sarah said, her voice filled with awe. "We've turned this place into something beautiful." Mark smiled, recalling the darkness that had once threatened to consume him. "And we'll keep fighting for it, for everyone who feels lost." Jake nodded, looking around at their friends who had come to support them. This is just the beginning. We'll continue to spread the message and help others. As they stood together, the sun setting behind them, they felt a renewed sense of purpose. They had transformed their fear into strength, and in doing so, they had created a community that would stand together against the darkness. From that day forward, Mark, Sarah, and Jake became known as the guardians of the forest. They dedicated themselves to helping others navigate their fears, ensuring that no one would have to face the darkness alone. And as they looked to the future, they knew that together, they could overcome anything. The bond of their friendship had not only saved Mark, but had also forged a path toward healing and hope for their entire community. In the heart of the forest, where shadows once danced menacingly, light now flourished, a testament to the power of unity, love, and the unwavering strength of friendship. Together, they would continue to shine brightly, guiding others toward the light. That wraps up today's show. If you have a spine-chilling story of your own, don't hesitate to send it to us via the email address in the description below. We'd love to share your experiences with our listeners. Thank you for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you again at 8 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday. Until then, stay curious, stay tuned.